I put my Grok shirt on.
It is December 14th, 2013, and do you know if you have health insurance or not? Welcome to GrokTALK, brought to you by GrokTALK.com, New Hampshire's conservative website. I'm Steve McDonald, one of the three leading. I'm not turning you on because I'm not done talking. You guys interrupt me all the time. All right, I'll turn you on. Fine. Leading conservative only.
No, there are a couple others.
Oh, I don't know where they are. I'm sorry, that's my fault. Anyway, we're here, and this week we have a couple guests that we want to talk about before we get going. Current House Rep and candidate for New Hampshire's 2nd Congressional District, Marilyn Garcia, will be with us later in the program. Former radio talk show host Mike Ball from Mike and Mo in the Morning and The Big Show will join us via phone from Alberta, Vancouver in Canada. He's up there right now, but we're getting him up nice and early. Mike also served as a Republican New Hampshire state rep for Hillsborough, District 9, Manchester, Ward 2 in the 2011-2012 session with Speaker Bill O'Brien, and he was also the chairman of the Manchester Republican Committee in 2012. And current Republican State Rep J.R. Hole returns to the show to talk more about gun raffles and a lost Massachusetts Senator named Scott Brown, as well as the almost desperate embrace of the anti-Second Amendment Republican by the NHGOP in a very pro-Second Amendment state. Before we get to any of that, and then of course you get 30 minutes of us just talking about cool stuff, we wanted to take a moment to send our condolences to Joe Kenny, whose mother passed away. Joe was going to be our first guest this morning, but obviously he has more important things to attend to than spending time with us. Some people would say that just about everything is more important than spending time with us, but I could disagree with that in some instances. This is not one of them.
And just let me add that he is running for executive councillor in District 1 here in New Hampshire. Takes up pretty much the biggest part of northern New Hampshire.
The largest hunk of real estate.
Right. Skip's volume was a bit low.
North of the Pokey. He was, and I was trying to figure out why, because we had done this before the show. We always have to have a little technical discussion in the middle of the opening of the program.
That makes us like Rush Limbaugh.
A little. It does, doesn't it? Okay, and of course, I'd like to remind everyone to visit us at GrokTALK.com. And if you're into that kind of thing, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can find us by searching GrokTALK. And please like us, or tweet us, or retweet us, or tweet us to your Democrat hate-filled friends who can then spam us with their nonsense, and then we get new blog material. It's pretty cool. That's how it works.
Round and round it comes, and we're willing to accept it.
That's right. So we have plenty of things to talk about locally. I know we could talk about the blizzard in the Middle East, but that's we're having our own little snowstorm later today. It's currently somewhere between 2 and 9 degrees in Concord, New Hampshire right now, so it's a little cold, and we'll be having some nice fluffy snow later tonight and into tomorrow.
A -2 at my house this morning.
-2 on the side of the mountain. And so a couple of things that came across our multiple digital desks. George Lambert, who is a Republican Libertarian House member who was considering a run for governor, has dropped out for health reasons.
Yes, unfortunately he did suffer a heart attack a couple of months ago. And we wish him well. We like George. He's been on the show multiple times. I think he's even had a couple of guest posts on Granite Grok. I always like talking to him. He's very knowledgeable, very animated at times. So he's a lot of fun to talk to. There's an article in the Nashville paper, and in it he, we'll quote him. He said, "I wanted to fight for the people of New Hampshire, but I can't this time around. It's crazy," Lambert said. Lambert has urged former House Speaker Bill O'Brien, Republican of Mount Vernon, to enter the race in his stead. I said, "I need you to be my candidate." We talked about it, Lambert said. "Look, I have some reasons, some people, and nobody will do a better job of uniting Republicans and really talking about the Bill O'Brien budget that has been adopted by Maggie Hassan." O'Brien hasn't ruled it out, but again, he's taken a lot of flack during his last few years in politics. He's a lawyer. He's now running the American branch of a German software company, and he seems quite happy in doing so. You know, being a politician here in New Hampshire is a financial, not a concession, but it's a drain on the family, because we expect our politicians to be basically volunteers. You can only do that for so long before the family says, "Feed us, keep the roof over our head." So, you know, he's making good living from what I understand in talking with him. He's happy with what he's doing, and you know, it just shows the typical citizen politician that a lot of folks were imagining at the start of this country. Most people were farmers. They would lay their field implements down for a little while, go to the State House or wherever, serve their term, come back and resume what they were doing. And Bill is doing exactly that instead of becoming, quote unquote, a professional politician. And who knows? Will he run? I don't know. And I think in reading that article as well, there were a couple other names that were mentioned.
There is. O'Brien, let's see. Here's what Lambert said. Love him or hate him, you know who Bill O'Brien is, Lambert said. There's no name recognition problem there. O'Brien seconded Hemingway as an intriguing prospect. I think Andrew would be a great conservative candidate, O'Brien said. We'll see if they come up with the strongest candidate.
And he would be talking about Andrew Hemingway, friend of Granite Rock. Used to blog with us for a little while, more video blogging than just writing. I've kind of followed his career after I just got this call out of the blue one night. I'm thinking, who is this person, this young person, and why is he calling me as a blogger asking me about politics? And it's like, oh, this is different. And I followed him through his career thus far in New Hampshire politics, and as he went out and helped out national campaigns, and it's like, okay, let's see what he's going to do next.
I think the man's got energy. He's got leadership. He's certainly enthused about real get out the vote efforts. That's what he's working on at the moment, something that the Republican Party has been very bad at and the Obama Democrats have been very good at. And let's not forget, Obama for America, or whatever it's currently called.
Organizing for Acorn.
Yeah, that exactly, is a get out the vote effort that isn't going to go away, that is tied to the Obamacare stuff at the hip, that the navigators are really a funnel to get voters onto the Democrat rolls. We've got a lot of work to do if we're going to counter that.
True, very true. And you're very much in the right about the navigators doing sign-ups, as our friend James O'Keefe has already exposed. The navigators and the associated organizations, Enroll America and all that surrounding Obamacare. And a lot of fears that were expressed that this is going to be nothing more than a Democrat version of Motor Voter have turned out to be absolutely true. And they're targeting currently the red states, all in an all-out effort to turn them blue, because after all, politics is the personal is politics according to progressives, and they want it all. They will not stop until they have it all.
And it's a blood sport for them. And
it's a religion to them. It's not just a blood sport, it's a religion.
It absolutely is.
That makes it like some kind of voodoo, right? A religion and a blood sport all in one.
There is sacrifice and human sacrifice in the liberal religion.
There most definitely is, because people are inconvenient, especially ones that don't vote Democrat.
Yeah, versus us, who, people talk about us being theologically or ideologically driven all the time. It's more of a case of, we just want government to get to the point where it would leave us alone, and then you'd see us go home and we'd become irrelevant as problems if you would just leave us alone.
I've made it perfectly clear that I would be happy to have nothing to blog about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't expect that to ever happen in my lifetime at this point.
No,
so get used to it. This message to you Democrats out there.
Yes, because we do know that you're listening, and we do know that you read Granite Rock.
I don't know who the poor bastard is that has to listen to the show every week, but we don't feel bad for you at all.
You mean they have a tracker dissecting our thoughts?
They have trackers for everything. Paid trackers, traditionally.
Yes.
Wow. Put your analyst on danger money, baby.
Hey, is there any way we could become the paid trackers for them?
We could track ourselves?
And they'd pay us for it.
Oh, hey, that would be cool.
And we'd save them a body.
I'll change my name to Carlos Danger and see if I can break in.
What a wiener.
Okay. Hey,
all right,
Susan, I wanted to say something real quick. Susan posted up an extended interview with Senator Jim Roush. She wrote, diagnosis, rhino, treatment, primary.
Okay. Yes, folks, we are ideologically driven, but, unlike a lot of those on the left, we make no bones about it. We are driven by conservative and constitutional value, Judeo-Christian traditions, and that is what we blog about. That is our standpoint and our frame of reference. Tea Party is certainly a good spot for us to be in because all we do is believe in smaller government, fiscal frugality, and free markets. Those used to be the norms. Now we're called extremists because we believe in that rather than the socialist, top-down command control situation that we now find ourselves in. So if you fall outside of what we believe to be correct, which is, again, more to the effect of just leave us a heck alone, Mr. Government, Mrs. Government, we will find you, and we will talk about you, and we will write about you. And we don't care whether you're a Democrat or Republican, because as Mr. Wallace there, the NASCAR guy in the driver's ad says, we hate them all.
Hey, I wanted to point out that I just saw Mississippi Mississippi Democrats are executing what I like to call the New Hampshire strategy. Democrats are registering as Republicans to run against Tea Party candidates. Now, Democrats from Massachusetts have been coming to New Hampshire for 20 years, registering as Republicans and running as Republicans. Now, in the last 10 years, we got rid of a bunch of them. The party didn't like it. They certainly didn't like it. A lot of them ran as third-party independents after we got them booted out in the primary, and they still lost. Yay! And there's still more of them, quite a few. But now Mississippi is actually reporting, this is from Examiner.com, that Democrats and some MSNBC show, they're like, oh yeah, they're challenging. I'm like, why don't you tell them you're doing it? That's kind of stupid, don't you think? Just admitting it.
Well, it's the same thing that happened down in Virginia in the gubernatorial race where you had Cuccinelli, the Republican, running. You had a Libertarian, what was his name? Mr. Moneybag, Democrat Moneybags, who actually won the race. McAuliffe.
Oh yeah, the guy who had several campaign assistants who were vote stealers from New Hampshire. Well, vote stealers in New Hampshire. Yes. One was from Canada, one was from Chicago, I think.
Yeah, but the Democrats did the exact same thing there that they're at least openly admitting to up here. It came out just before the election in Virginia that the Democrats were funding the Libertarian candidate. We've seen this in a number of cases where people who called themselves Tea Partiers really weren't, but the funding turned out to be left-leaning folks trying to muddy the waters, as I would put it.
Well, in some cases, I even think that the Ron Paul phenomenon was partly Democrat owned and operated.
I don't know about that.
He may not have thought that, but he attracted an awful lot of Democrats.
Well, I think and I saw part of that. Lynn Rudman-Chung is the former Democrat chair up in Belknap County. And she actually liked Ron Paul. But there's that curious intersection on the social issues, the libertarian or the free
gambling, marijuana, abortion.
Right, where it comes down to on the left, it's sort of the libertine type of atmosphere they want everybody to adopt. Let government take care of all the important stuff. You guys just have a decadent lifestyle. Versus the libertarians, which they come out to be almost the same result, but from a far different philosophical standpoint, which is people should be free to do what they want.
We're not going to pay for you to be libertarians.
Right. Whereas the Democrats want you to be. I mean, the whole war on women, contraceptive, abortifacients, abortion type of deal. We want everybody to go play in bed as much as you want, and everybody else will pay for the disastrous consequences if they so happen.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea if you're a Democrat.
It's crazy because back in 2008, and I think I've told this story before, I haven't even written about it, two different people that I know, one I worked with, and one who is related to me, and whose name I will not use, said that they were looking at the candidates that they liked in the primaries heading up to the 2008 elections, and they said, well, I think either Ron Paul or Obama. And I was like, what? They're like opposite ends. We have a Marxist on one side and this small government constitutionalist on the other.
But they're both going to let him do pot. So they thought. And it turns out that Obama isn't a libertarian on pot after all. His government's been dragged kicking and screaming.
These aren't necessarily politically motivated persons who are highly involved in the sausage factory activities.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
So that's the question is now, and I don't watch news on TV. I don't imbibe any major media. I get almost everything I get from oddball sources all over the internet, and so I was like, imagine I'm just like, the perception that's being given is that these two individuals, and at that time we knew even less about Obama than we do now. We don't know a lot more, but I'm like, why do they even think they're similar?
Well, see, the thing is that the three of us here are real news and political junkies. We could draw the Venn diagrams showing all the intersections of where all the politicians sit on social issues, fiscal issues, neo-colonialism, imperialism, even fiscal policy. We could do the whole schmear and probably get it 90% right for not being paid professionals. But most people are the lives, the low information voter. They hear bits and pieces, but they don't get the whole picture. They're not the well-informed electorate that our founders were depending upon. But of course, that depends on actually independent media, which we don't have.
This is what happens when you look to Susan Sarandon for your information.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's just think about what was happening in 2007 and 2008. Those of us that read the details and the background saw Obama for what he was, a Marxist. However, even such distinguished outlets as Reason magazine had hopes for him as a libertarian, or not so much a libertarian, but someone who would reduce government involvement in personal issues, such as marijuana was one of them. But I think what caught the eye of the average low information voter was he was on record railing against wars and debt, both. Remember, his comments on the debt ceiling sounded like Ted Cruz 6 years earlier. And I think it's those things that may have painted the incorrect picture. I mean, Obama's a master campaigner, a master of disinformation. Goebbels must be turning in his grave watching this expertise at work.
Wow, that's probably true. That's kind of hard for him to turn, though, isn't it? Wasn't he a big guy?
Yeah, I understand it's kind of noisy over in Germany right now.
He's not. He's probably not very big now. Okay, let's talk about some local things. We should probably touch on the canoe tax, no canoe tax.
Yes, mea culpas from Granite Rock to Senator Odell, Republican of Leominster.
Didn't they really mean a Canuck tax on the border?
Not quite. This was a story that I first got a whiff of from AFP New Hampshire, which then referenced an Lawrence Eagle Tribune article where it was being reported that Bob Odell was pushing for a $10 tax on canoes and kayaks. And because the fishing game was doing so much more, they needed more money. Even though, quote unquote, there were less hunters and fishermen and stuff like that going on. We should have consulted with Rick Olson before we went with it, but
well, not just that.
sometimes-
We probably should have reached out to Mr. Odell.
Yes, but at the same time, we're bloggers with full-time jobs.
Yeah, we don't get paid to. We're not professional media. We don't have a paycheck that says, before you print up something that some other news media source supposedly already sourced as reference, that you need to call all these people. Don't have the time or the money. We have to work.
Right. So anyways...
And we're bloggers.
Right. Well, like the New York Times says we have layers and layers of fact checkers and editors, and then they end up with that Jason Blair guy.
Oh, it's not just that. The major media lies all the time. They don't...
But
they
anyways,
just make up stuff.
They print stuff that Paul Krugman writes.
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, anyways, we will admit when we are wrong. We are admitting that we were wrong. We, even though we were getting it from the Eagle Tribune, we wrote a few posts concerning this from different standpoints. I will say that we stand by the principles. It's you just don't apply a tax. Find out other ways or better ways to do what you're already doing, and if you're doing too much, stop doing that.
And hating kayaks is not justification for a tax. I just want to get that out there.
Well, yeah, and especially since my son owns a couple of kayaks and a canoe, so I know that he works very hard, a lot of hours every single week. Very rarely does he get an afternoon off for solitude with a small, very young family right now. And for him to have to drop $10 on the once or twice that he can actually put one of those puppies into the water, usually Lake Winnipesaukee up here, for a couple of hours, I thought that was a little excessive. Well, it turns out that he wasn't. We were contacted by Tom Cronin, the communications director of the New Hampshire State Senate and said, "Guess what, boys? Not quite right."
You've been had.
Yeah. I mean, he understood that we had taken the story from somewhere else, and it's my understanding that the Eagle Tribune yesterday put out a retraction as well. So mea culpas all around, but you know, the official motto of Granite Rock is spank them when they're wrong and thank them when they're right. It can spank us, excuse me, for us getting it wrong this time, and you know, we shall take such opprobrium as properly suited.
Okay, one other issue. We have a couple minutes left. Peter Sullivan's very excited because Ann Custer stuck her foot in her mouth.
No, actually, she didn't stick anything in her mouth. She kept it closed for once. And usually you would like politicians to keep their mouths closed, but not this time.
Well, she still said some stuff that was pretty dumb.
Well, was she wearing his stilettos when she stuck her foot in her
Well,
mouth?
that's a good question. I don't know if he loaned them to her or not. I don't know how tall she is, if she needs comfortable shoes or what they're doing.
And while we're about mea culpas, yes, that was my Photoshop.
I thought it was pretty nice. Give us the story, sir.
Okay, so you know about Peter Sullivan. He opens his big mouth and says some offensive things about Marilyn DeGarcia, who will be on the program later today. And I've already sent out my thank yous because she's gotten national recognition and attention right out of the gate, thanks to Democrats.
Yes.
And coincidentally, she's going to be running against, if she wins the primary, Ann Custer, who, at a meeting, a little committee conference-y type thing, a town hall sort of a thing.
But they don't do town halls, right? Not open ones.
No, and at which she was going to be talking about the Middle East. She read a prepared statement with the word Benghazi in it, and she basically said that Libya is not part of the Middle East, so she's not going to talk about it. And she's looking around like she has no clue what Benghazi is, because she clearly doesn't really have any clue what Benghazi is. And people in the audience were like, yeah, it's in the Middle East, how come you're not talking about it, why don't you know? And so she is now, and this immediately became national news. It hit all the radio talk shows, it hit all the right-wing blogs, it even hit the newspapers and the left-wing blogs. So everybody knows that Ann Custer was like, duh, when it came to Benghazi. So Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire has issued a petition because Ann Custer's later prepared rebuttal to her stupid remark states that she's very concerned about what happened there and she thinks that we need to get to the bottom of it. So House Resolution 36 would create a committee whose specific duty it would be to thoroughly investigate this and get to the bottom of it. And so Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire has asked that she sign on, and you can go to their website and sign the petition.
Yep, or you can Google it on Granite Rock. The petition is there as well. So yeah, it's very interesting, but yeah, definitely deer in headlights. And you know, every once in a while, everybody's going to have a senior moment. I was going to say other words, but that's okay.
We could call it a Custer moment now.
Yes, and it's not so bad to go, okay, all of a sudden, folks, I've just gone blank, and I know it's going to be terrible for me to ask, but somebody remind me, oh yeah, and then, you know, well, she could have done that.
She looked at her staffer like, what?
That was the bad part. Her staffer kind of went, oh, shall I let her dangle in the breeze?
Swing on the hook.
And
so I'm beginning to wonder, you know, the Democrats always promote themselves as the smartest people in the room, and yet there's evidence everywhere that their staffers toy with them.
There's even a question about whether or not they're the smartest person in an empty room.
Yeah, but I mean, time and again, especially the photographs, it seems to me that Obama's staff plays with him, and maybe Custer's staff is playing with her.
Yeah, Steve and I were having a nice conversation about, is it really stupidity and incompetence at play, or are we only seeing, in regards to Obamacare and the assurance programs and all that stuff, are we only seeing the mangled velvet glove that's hiding the iron fist behind it? Because, you know, is it going to blow up all of its own, or is he really doing the setup for nationalization of the insurance markets? And you know, I'm torn in twixt between, but
Sure.
it's probably going to have to be done for another day.
You know, you don't have to be terribly intelligent to fall down a set of stairs. I'm just saying.
No.
Yes, but it takes
as long as you're pointing in that direction already.
But it takes a lot of initiative and smarts to be able to draw everybody in the room down with you. That's the problem.
Right, so the law is full of conflicts, which pretty much guaranteed the outcome. If the insurance companies that signed on for it had actually read the law, they would have found out that it couldn't possibly work, that the young people they were counting on to buy their plans weren't going to, and that they would go broke if the government didn't bail them out. In other words, the government would own them whether they were explicitly or implicitly nationalized, and they were too dumb to do that. And a guy who isn't always the most conservative in the room said very clearly last night on Bret Baier that they deserve everything that's coming to them. That was George Will.
Yes. Music.
Yeah, about 30 seconds.
Oh. Yeah, it's rather amazing to see how this is going, but even one of the smartest people on that panel, Charles Krauthammer, said this is his way of nationalizing, or fascists, bringing fascism to the marketplace, where he doesn't have to own the insurance companies, he only has to so highly regulate them, they can't do anything of their own volition.
You know, in China, when you do something wrong, they shoot you. Yeah, okay. We're almost there.
In America, they nationalize you.
They send the IRS after you. All right, that's the first segment of GrokTALK. When we come back, J.R. Hole will be on the line, and we're going to talk about Scott Brown, the NHGOP, and a gun raffle.
Good things.
All right, let me get a hold of Mr. Hole.
I want my...
Okay. Somehow we gotta... Huh?
Is he on line one?
Yeah.
Going to be on line one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somehow we gotta cut the background out when I'm doing the calling.
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I think there is a way of doing it.
I'm sure there is, but I don't know how to do it. Pick up the phone.
Hello, this is Skip. How are you?
This one.
Yeah, let's try that. Nope, that's not working. Oh well. Yeah, that's what we're trying to get rid of right now. Oh, there you did it. Cool. The addition button. Much better. Yeah, we've learned something new about this new board. You know, Steve and I are kind of peering over which one should we push.
What if something might blow up?
Yeah. We're doing well. We're doing well. I'm going to unpress that button. You'll listen to the music, and then we'll bring you on. Alrighty, sir. We'll talk to you in about, 3 minutes? 2 minutes. Alrighty. Bye.
2.5.
Oh, well, don't say bye. Just hold on.
Put the music back on. So you guys saw where Huck sort of quit his radio show. Apparently he's on 200 stations, which isn't bad. It's about a third
That's
of
a
what Rush.
That's a lot.
Yeah, we're on one. Ours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Which isn't bad, and yet I don't feel a lot of people pay attention to him. So he announces he's quitting his radio
An
show.
Arkansas Rhino. Why would we pay attention to him?
Yeah, and he might be getting in the race. So various opinions are out there, including, as I wrote, the Contract from America ran one of these matchup polls where you click through a bunch of pairings.
I saw it. They voted him off the island.
They voted him off the island instantly. He fell to the bottom of the poll.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an evangelical Christian by faith. But when I heard him saying that he has no problem using the force of government to push Christian charity, the Tea Party in me said,
He's bad on immigration. He's bad on a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
He's bad on immigration, he's bad on climate change, and he's bad on taxation. He raised taxes in Arkansas in spite of claiming the opposite.
Yeah. So...
better than Obama, but really. That's like saying Scott Brown's better than Jean Shaheen. Well, she is. He is.
he is, and he has genuine residency, which her children
I don't have any issue with that. And the Democrats are terrified of him, which is a plus, but other than that, I'm like...
Yeah,
well, I'm planning on being at that rally just as soon as I can.
Is that today?
Thursday.
No, Thursday the 19th.
Oh, okay.
So...
and this is a Tea Party rally outside the Scott Brown...
Gun. It's
an anti-Second Amendment rally.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
All right, here we go.
Grok TV.